Above All Else, a podcast created simply to lead women and help them grow in their relationship with Jesus. I am Brianna Frajowski here with Emily Bird and Jenn Kish, and we are so excited to be here with you today and so excited to get to hear from Jenn today. But before we do that, we're going to do our weekly check-in. So how's it going, ladies? It's been a crazy everything. So I feel like there's a lot of things, but Emily, how's it going?
We're great. It has been a very full week. Um, and normally I try to keep one day of just white space that, I try to get all of my laundry done. And that white space day did not happen this week. And I feel like I have been playing catch up all week long from all the things that I didn't get to do on Monday. You know how it was just it's this time of year, it's the end of school and everything is falling at one time. And so when you look at my calendar right now, it's like, oh, there's, like three things written on every day.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Oh, wow.
but you know what? I'm so grateful to be able to do it. And I'm so grateful for this time of year. Every time I find myself, every morning praying, thanking the Lord for the springtime and for this time of new life. So even though life is full and we got a lot on our agenda, um, this time of year when you see things blooming and we know that Christ is alive, there's a joy that floods my heart and just kind of stays there despite all the craziness in my agenda. So my heart is happy this morning. So everything's great here. I'm ready for Easter.
Yes. Yes. What about you, Jenn?
Yeah, so it's been a little crazy around here the last couple of weeks, as I was just sharing with you girls. But my son had surgery yesterday, so we've been balancing, recovery. And he has a little bell by his bed, and I'm like, this bell has 48 hours and then it's gone. But I'm trying to respond because he just can't get up and move around. So we are doing that, and then same with us. Everything's ending, coming to a close. We're almost done with. We have one today, and then one more day at co-op, or one more week. So. I'm looking forward to things winding down and slowing a bit for the summer, but everything's really good. We're grateful that God's been faithful once again
Yes.
throughout even a difficult couple of weeks. So that's where
Yes.
we are.
Yeah, it's been really nice. We have a 4-day weekend this weekend, like this week.
Nice.
So we have like Good Friday and then we have Easter Monday off. And so I was really yesterday just kind of trying to encourage my girls because the way my classes are broken up, it's like girls one day, boys another. And just kind of trying to encourage them to like hone in this weekend. Like don't miss this weekend. Like
Good.
they were so excited to be off school today, which I mean we all were. Like, I mean, we're all excited for a day off. Um,
Mhm.
but I trying to like focus in with them on like, hey, listen, there's a reason. The reason is because someone was murdered. Like,
Mhm.
but it's a good thing because 3 days later he rose from the dead. Like,
Right.
it's good because of Sunday. And so this weekend, like, don't get so caught up in the fact that we're just out of school that we miss the big picture, the most important thing, not just this weekend, but every day of our lives.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so it's been fun. And then it's just been an adventure of a week with sixth graders when they know that it's a 4-day week. When they know it's a 4-day week, there's like something inside of them. It's like, no days. It's all no days. So
Great.
but it's good. It's good. It's wonderful. I only have like 4.5 weeks left with them. So no, I'm like distraught almost. But it'll be okay. It'll be all right. I won't be distraught come May.
Yeah.
Um, so today we are gonna get to hear from Jenn about how the Lord is just working and worked and how he moves and has proven, like you said, he's proven himself to be faithful even over the past couple of
Yes.
weeks. And so how he's proven himself to be faithful in your life. And um so the floor is yours, and I am going to mute myself because I know I'll So I'm just gonna go ahead and mute and I'm here. But
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to get to share. Um, like Emily just called it a snapshot of my story. I think that we have agreed that we could talk for hours about the faithfulness and the goodness of God. Um, I forgot to tell my husband that I was recording, so he's just invited me out for lunch and birthday shopping. So I'm just going to send a quick message. I'm not usually texting on the podcast. Uh, but anyway, tomorrow's my birthday. Um, so anyway, uh, the Lord has been faithful. And there's a couple of verses that I hold really, really close. And one obviously is going to be Hebrews 10:23. And I really hope that we say that verse so much on this podcast that you guys are like, oh, not this verse again. But that's how much like I want you guys, I want it to be the part of the fabric of who we are. But it is the verse that says, let us hold unswervingly, in this translation, unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promises faithful. And so the part of my testimony that I'm going to share is when I decided that I was going to fix my eyes on Jesus. And that's a couple of pages over in Hebrews as well. I think it's Hebrews 12:2.
Well, two, I think.
2,
12, one
yeah.
or
Let
two.
us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And it goes on, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. And how beautiful that we're doing this on Good Friday. But unswervingly and fixing my eyes on Jesus for me goes hand in hand, right? That word there, when I'm driving down the road, if I look to the right, I will steer my car eventually to the right. A kid will say, "Hey, look over there," and I'll try to look, and my car will go to the left. And so, just that good imagery of me fixing my eyes on Jesus, he is straight ahead. I'm not going to be distracted by the things to my right or to my left. I'm going to focus on him and move in a way that draws me closer to him. That is a really good picture of how I try to live out my Christian faith. Um, because like Brianna, I get distracted very easily. I can definitely fall into some ADD, ADHD. I don't have an official diagnosis, but I can definitely lose sight of where I'm headed really quickly. And I do that often in my day-to-day life. But my story, um, I'm going to share a little bit of my story with you, but just I want you to understand that that's how I had to set up my relationship with Christ, that I had to remind myself on a daily basis to fix my eyes on him and not be distracted by the things of this world. Because I'm telling you, those distractions, they never ever go away. They're always there. So it's almost like I'm a horse with blinders on. Not that I'm completely unaware of what's happening in the world around me. It's just that I'm looking through the lens of Jesus, right? So again, ironically, for Good Friday, I mean, I guess the Lord, I mean, this is divine. I shouldn't even say ironically, but the way that that we decided who would record their testimony first, and then even how we ended up really kind of being delayed in recording on this day. But a lot of my story, I write about this, but it's really through the lens of Judas, because I
Mhm.
have um, I just have real questions about how someone could live so close to Jesus and not be changed by him. And I know that comes from my childhood. So when I was little, my dad was my pastor for the first, well, he became a pastor. So we went to seminary when I was really young. I was like, between 1.5 and 3 or 4. And my mom will correct these dates later. So I lived through that season when my dad was called to the ministry and we went to seminary together. My mom worked to support our family while he attended seminary. And so we spent some time in New Orleans for him to do that. And then we moved back to take a church in South Carolina. And so, from being a very, very young girl, probably kindergarten age, until I was in probably seventh or eighth grade, my dad was my pastor. And I talk often about one of the things that I loved the most about my dad was his Bible, because his Bible was so worn and marked and frayed and bent. And I mean, just like mine looks brand new compared to like what his would have looked like. And I would just always go into his office and pick it up. And when you pick it up, it felt like a rag, like it didn't have much strength to it. Like it appeared to be a very well-worn Bible, and it really was a well-worn Bible. My dad knew the Bible better than anybody that I know. He could teach the Bible in a powerful way. Um, he could lead people to Christ. He just had he just had a real gift from God. And for a while, he stewarded that well. Um, and then a season came where he didn't steward it well any longer. And I'm always really careful when I speak. I never want to glorify any of the sin that my dad participated in. Um, so and also, to be very honest, my dad's still alive, and I don't want him to relish in anything that is said. And that's just very true. He would relish in someone talking about him, good or bad. So if he's listening, I don't want to give his story any glory, but I do want to give God glory for what he did through that. So when I was 12 or 13, my dad had an affair, and he split our church. He was having an affair with a woman that he was counseling, and just destroyed my immediate family immediately, obviously, and then by extension, our church family, which was huge for my mom and I because our church family was our family, you know. The people in the church we loved so much. I loved the senior adults. They took me in like I was their own, grandchild. They gave me candy and baked me cakes. And, I spent a lot of time at the church. My mom worked during that time. She worked part-time, but if I was out of school, I would spend those days at the church, you know. So we were always there and we were always part of that family. So when my dad chose sin, I've stopped saying fell into. I used to say when he fell, no, but he didn't fall. Like he fell by his choice. So I want to be real clear about that sin is, we don't accidentally trip into a sin hole. We choose sin. Um, so when he chose sin, I realized that I had tethered my faith to my dad. He was my
Mm.
leader in our home and my leader at church. So I had just, I'd really linked my faith in God to who my dad was. And so it would be years, years, years later that I would write about Judas, and I would see so much of my dad in Judas because it appeared by, anyone looking in that my dad was walking close to Jesus like Judas was. And I've just always wondered how someone could walk so close and not be changed. And then I started thinking about how I was living my life. And I was probably in my early 20s at this point. I know that it was around 2009. I don't know the exact date because, to be very honest with you, my this season of my life was it wasn't like a switch. It wasn't like I'm giving my life to the Lord. I gave my life to the Lord when I was 8 years old. My dad baptized me. So the crisis of faith came later. And I can definitely tell you, I believe that I was saved as an 8-year-old with childlike faith. But as an adult, I had to make a decision, right? So in my early 20s, it must have been 2009-ish, I began this season of really seeking the Lord, and I realized that I didn't know much about God at all. I knew the Sunday school stories. I knew the hymns. I mean, like I could answer any question that you asked me as long as it stayed in the realm of Noah and the Ark, Moses and the Exodus, Daniel Engel. Like I knew how to answer. I knew how to say things the right way. I knew the right songs to sing. I knew how to pray some prayers. I call them my Chick-fil-A prayers because this is before I really learned to pray, and that was a season where I started really digging deep into prayer. But I used to pray like I order my lunch at Chick-fil-A. I pull up to the little box, I tell the little box what I want, I get to the window, and I expect to be handed what I asked for. But I learned really quick that God doesn't give you what you order at the little black box, right? I can count very few times where I've specifically asked God for something and He gave it to me in the way that I anticipated to receive it. So most of what God has given me by His almighty grace has come through hardship and suffering. And I would never pull up to a little black box and order hardship or suffering, right? Um, so in 2006, and it's a long story, but I had a father figure come into my life, and he was never married to my mom, which made it kind of an interesting situation, but they were really, really good friends. And he had been separated from his daughters. And so he came with a hole and I had a hole. And I mean, really, we just loved each other. And his name was Harry, and Harry was fantastic. And through my teen years, Harry did, I said 2006. That's the second part of the story. He came into my life in like 97 or so. These years mean nothing to people, but anyway, when I was younger. But he taught me to drive. He taught me to shoot a gun. He would bring me gifts. He would give me cash. He would do all kind of things for me. If I was sick, he would bring me, soup or food or a stuffed animal. Like he just did all the things that a dad would do. And so the four of us over the years, and the four of us, I mean, my husband, my mom, and Harry and I, we just began to kind of function like a family. We spent every weekend together pretty much. We'd go out to dinner at least on Friday or Saturday night. And so one particular afternoon, he called me, and this was after my daughter was born, and I was in college and working part-time and had a young daughter. And he just said that he wanted to do something special for me. He knew I'd had a lot on me, and he wanted to take me shopping. And so we set up a time to go shopping, and on it was supposed to be Sunday afternoon after church, and so we went. We were supposed to meet at my house, and my mom came, and Harry didn't show up on time, and so we started looking for Harry, and we started calling around, and I called his mom and to see if he'd gone down there to help her, and it's just very uncharacteristic for him to be late. So I ended up calling. Actually, one of my coworkers was his neighbor, and she was married to a police officer. And I said, I said, hey, Mindy, Harry's supposed to be here. He's not here. Would you send Wayne over to see if the truck's at home? And as soon as we hung up, I mean, she called me back so fast, and she said, hey, she knew that we were already headed down there. She said, hey, when you guys come into the neighborhood, just stop at my house. Don't go down to Harry's. And I thought, I just knew in that moment that that wasn't going to be a story that ended well. And so I did stop at her house, and she told me that they had found Harry in his bed. Um, and he's 46, very young, and he just died unexpectedly in his bed. And I just found myself in another situation where I just wondered why God would have given me such a good gift just to snatch it away. And that's just how I felt, to be very honest. Like you guys know on the Above All Else podcast, we don't try to paint pretty pictures of things. We just tell you we tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly because you need to know that faith in Jesus Christ is not an easy path, right? So life's hard with or without Jesus, but with Jesus, we can navigate things more easily. But I think that there's even a different element to suffering when you're a child of Christ because I think sometimes we are intended to grow closer to Him through suffering. Um, and I don't really know what I'm trying to say through that. I just want you to know that that really was my that's the honest reaction. Like, why would you do that to me, God? Like, why would you give me something so beautiful and so sweet and so precious and then just snatch it away? And I just remember that being a time where I knew, like, I was fully aware that right now is when I'm making a decision, right? Am I going to trust that God is good even when things are bad? Or am I just going to say, I'm done with you. This isn't working for me. I'm moving on. Because at this point, you know, the two father figures I had, like had been snatched away in one form or another. One chose to leave. One would have never left by his own choice. Of course, to be with Jesus, I'm sure that he would choose that. But for me, it was just like, I don't understand why I keep receiving good things. And then I realized that, again, I had sort of tethered even my identity to this figure. And I think we underestimate how important a father is, a father figure. And so it was in that moment where I decided, okay, I'm going to rely on God for all of my father figure needs, right? Because God will never leave or forsake me. And I know that Harry's with Jesus. So that even made me want to know more about Jesus. Because, okay, Harry's with you. So who are you and what's happening? And so that kind of was the peak of me going, okay, I'm going to learn as much as I can about who this God is And that is where I went from knowing, and how I talk about that verse in Job, my ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. This was that for me. This was where I went from having all of this information about God and even understanding that Jesus was God's only son who died on the cross in a horrific way for my sins and was resurrected on the third day. And because of that, I will be resurrected with him one day, and I'll be reunited with these people who've gone on before us. But that moment where you have that switch from just knowing these things and the truth about God to understanding them and being willing to submit your will to, okay, God, I am going to fix my eyes, and wherever this path is going, I don't like where it's already been. I don't like where it's already been. But wherever we're going, I'm locked in on you and we're going together. And so that began a really, really fun journey for me. A few years after that, God called me into the ministry, and He sort of paved the way that has led to everything that I've gotten to do in my life through that. And I will tell you, and I say this all the time, those aren't the only two things that were difficult that ever happened in my life. You know, there's been, I mean, we could just talk for hours about the things that happen in life. But God is faithful. And so I'm going to hold unswervingly to that hope that He is faithful. And recognizing the goodness of God, even on our darkest days, is really what gets us through. And to me, I can't imagine walking through any of those things apart from Him. But without those things, I wouldn't know Jesus the way I know Him today. And I'm just so, so grateful that in His great mercy, He allowed pain and suffering to make me somebody who can lean fully on Jesus Christ. Because I know now that I can't hold anything in my hands. As hard as I try to hold on to things and protect people and keep them safe, I'm continually reminded that I can't. I have no control over anything. And it gives me great peace to say, you know what? I'm just going to give that to God. And then, and I'll sort of wrap my testimony but with this, but Paul says, oh, and I wish I had written it down, Emily. Paul says to live a life worthy of the calling that you have received. And I want to say it's in First Peter, but I'm not sure. We can Google it. Um, but that scripture to me, that challenge to live a life worthy of the calling that we have received, we have all received a calling that comes through what happened on Good Friday, what we remember about Good Friday. If we know Jesus Christ, you have a calling in some capacity. And so the challenge of submitting my life and my will and my desires. Did you find it, Bree? You're muted, yeah.
Sorry, I have to unmute, and I'm over here like,
Sorry.
Ephesians 4:1.
Oh, is that Paul though, at least? Yeah, Ephesus,
Yeah,
the letter
that
to
would be.
Ephesus. Okay, good. So, uh, you know, I think when we think of living a life worthy of Jesus, I mean, that's the goal, right? Like, I guess we can set that as our goal. I feel like I fall short of that so very often. How in the world do I live a life worthy of this calling that I've received? But if you know Jesus, He's given you a calling. He's given your life a purpose and a meaning, and there's something that you're supposed to do for Him, to reach others, to serve others. There's something that you're supposed to do. So I feel like just learning to set my eyes on Him is one of the ways that I can try to live a life that is worthy of the calling that I've received. He's a good, good father. Okay, that's it.
Listen, I don't think it matters how many times I hear that part of your story. I just, every time, shambles. And I was thinking while you were sharing, Jen, how beautiful it is that the Lord brought the three of us together. Because although our stories are different in certain ways, we all have several things in common that are like not normal things that just happen.
Very true. And
And
it's weird because it's even like between you and me, and then between you and Emily, but also between me and Emily. Like
yeah,
yeah, our stories are very oddly
yeah. And
similar
it
and
was
different.
like the Lord just knit it together and he knew.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing. And when I think of being living a life that's worthy of the calling. Um, there's a verse, and if you had asked me any other time when my brain wasn't like just emotional, and it's when, oh my gosh, you guys, I cannot remember the verse, but it's when it's like Jesus, it's I can't even say the words because I can't remember the verse. But it's like the premise is like that he went even with the joy laid before him. There you go.
He, he endured
There's
the
the word.
cross.
There's a few of the words. Okay, a few of the words. Oh, I can't hear you, Jen. Hold on.
I think that's the end of the one that I read in Hebrews 12, that he endured the cross.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, 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 yes.
For the
And then
joy set before him,
the joy set
yeah.
before him. And so
isn't
when I
it?
think of living a life worthy of the calling, it's for the joy set before.
Oh,
We have to endure the like our cross. We're called to take up our cross every day, right? Like if we're gonna live according to our calling, in accordance with our calling, that means we're not gonna, obviously die the way that he was murdered. But it means for the joy set before us, like
yeah,
every day when we're taking up our cross, like
that's huge. You
we
want
have,
me to read it? I have it. I'll read the
yeah,
whole thing
because I
again.
just said like three of
Yeah. So it's the second half of the verse that I read earlier. It's Hebrews 12:2, and it says, "Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." What a beautiful, beautiful scripture.
yeah, man. I don't know. I just like, and I don't know why. Like, I guess because you had read the scripture earlier, so maybe it was just like
I
there
didn't read that part.
in
Yeah.
my head. But that's all I could think was like the hardships. Like you said, we don't order those at the Chick-fil-A window. Like we're not asking for hardship, but for the joy set before him, he endured the cross for us. And if we're gonna live according to our calling, and live a life worthy of our calling. It means that we live a life that considers those things joy, right? James says it like, consider it all joy when you face these hardships. Doesn't mean that we're happy about it in the moment, but we know that ultimately in finding the joy in Jesus, because you can't find joy in your situations, in finding that joy in Jesus, we are living in a way that is worthy of our calling, and we are walking it out like Jesus did. And our hardships are not going to equal. Please don't hear that I'm saying like our hardships have equaled his death on the cross. That's not what I mean. But for the joy set before him, he did that for us. And so we should expect nothing less than hard. Jen, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable. And Emily, when you shared, thank you for being vulnerable. And I think that that's important
Mhm.
because once again, we are all about being real. Like
Mhm.
we don't have it all together. Our
Mhm.
faces may be perfect with our filters and stuff sometimes, but we do not have it all together. And I think it's important that people know that they're not alone. Not only do they not, I mean, not only because they have Jesus, but also because there are women who are walking through life struggling too. So
Yeah, and I think that has done some damage, for us to look at other people and to think that their faith that they're living their faith out better than we are, or that their faith is easier than ours, or that God is better to them. I think if, and again, that's looking left and right,
Right.
Um, so I think it is our heart to share the absolute real with you guys, because we're not, I mean, we could get up here and paint pretty pictures, but that's not doing anybody any good. Definitely not us, because I mean, I wouldn't be the person I am if Emily hadn't shared the good, the bad, and the ugly with me in person years ago, and Bree, you and I have shared, we knowing that other people struggle with the same things, and that we have questions about God, and we have questions about why God allows things to happen. I think that helps it. I know that it helps me feel better when I'm questioning things, and also gives me a place to go. Well, I know who I can talk to and who can help redirect me and point me back to Jesus. So I hope that's what we're doing. I hope we're pointing you guys not to Bree or Emily or Jen, but that what you get from this is that you need to fix your eyes on Jesus.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Today's it was so refreshing this morning. Like, so, oh man, I just love time with you ladies, and I love that we get to spend time with all of our other hundred and something people that listen to us. Like, it's fun. It's just like, oh, we're spending time together. Well, we are so excited, and we are man, just excited about this weekend, excited to celebrate the risen Savior. And so, although you all will be hearing this after Easter, we hope that not just on Easter, but that every day going forward, that your hearts are truly just reminded of the sacrifice that was made, and that we celebrate it really big one day, but every day in our hearts, there should be that reminder um, of what was done for us so that we can live simply that so that we can live. So we love you guys, and we're just so thankful for this time together, time with y'all, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.